Yo, guys, welcome back
to
episode 2 of Making It podcast. I am your co-host, Suga.
I am Faisal.
And today is a big topic, which is, drum roll,
YouTube. So basically, in this episode, we covered loads of things. We talked about our personal journeys to, leading up to creating our YouTube channels, why we created our YouTube channels, how it's going. We talked about sort of the upsides of YouTube and
and what's appealing about it.
Yeah.
And
we talked about loads of minor topics as well. It's not. This probably isn't the only episode we're going to talk about. YouTube, because there's
we know
so
a lot
much
of people want to
talk
hear loads of things about it, especially the realistic side of things, where it's like not so pretty and not so glamorous. But yeah.
And if you want to know why Sugar's camera is cut off, it's because she didn't bring any spare batteries. Okay.
And
so leave a comment below.
This is what it's all about. We're giving you guys the true experiences of what it's like to digitally create and getting through the faff. Okay.
If we want to make it, we got to bring more batteries. No,
anyways, let's get cracking.
Enjoy the episode.
Yo, welcome back to episode 2 of the Making It podcast. I am your co-host, Sugar.
I am Faisal.
And we are 2 junior doctors who are just trying to make it.
Exactly. So today we want to talk about our journey through YouTube.
Yeah,
right?
Big topic.
Big topic, lots to break down. And okay, let's start with why you decided to start a YouTube channel.
Okay, so YouTube is definitely becoming more trendy than it was before, right? And I think when I was young, I never really saw the appeal of YouTube in terms of like being like a side career or something that you can monetize from. It was just a concept that I wasn't aware of when I was young, until very recently I started to see people who started when I was young who are now like ridiculously successful with very minimal input in comparison to like your 9-to-5 job, and with maximum output of just opportunities on opportunities. So that's the big appeal of YouTube, isn't it? So I wanted to try it because I just wanted to see what the process was like and whether it's worth it, because I think you only ever see like what people end up becoming, and you don't really know the backstory of like how much work you have to put in to making the videos and whatnot.
So who did you have your eye on that you kind of were like aspiring to be like?
So my day one YouTuber that I always followed was Superwoman. So Lily Singh.
Oh, Lily Singh.
So Lily Singh from day one. I think her and Diary of a Bad Man, they're the 2 people that I was religiously following on YouTube. Just because they were both South Asian comedians, very, very entertaining. But amongst that entertainment, there was something really authentic about them. Like, I never saw them as celebrities or people that I just cannot resonate with. I just felt like they were one of us. Like, their content was very much like things that we see on a daily basis that we wouldn't pay attention to. But when they put a limelight on it, we think, oh my God, that is so true. So I used to follow them loads.
So this is when? Back in like secondary school? Or?
Yeah, this was when I was
Must have been secondary school, right?
Starting from the age of like 13 to 16, like teenager, so almost like 2 decades ago.
So you wanted to be a YouTuber back then, or you were kind of just being introduced to that idea?
No, I never wanted to be a YouTuber because I didn't really know what that meant. Like, even just the term, are you a YouTuber? Like, that to me, like, it doesn't ring in my head like, oh, do you want to be a doctor or do you want to be an artist? Like, the concept of a YouTuber, I never saw it as like an occupation. I never thought it's something that you can become. And I didn't actually know back then that for them to be YouTubers, all they did was just get a camera and film themselves, Like, I thought it was genuinely like you have to apply to YouTube, get an interview and I did not know that it was like an accessible platform that anyone can do and that anyone can just do what they did. So
my story was a bit different. So like basically in secondary school, I would watch loads of YouTube videos. Like growing up, that was my sort of place to go to. When you're just bored, you just go on YouTube and just go down a rabbit hole of just random videos. So I'd be watching all these different types of videos. I'd be learning new skills on there. So very early on, I realized that, okay, this is subconsciously at the very least, that this was a sick platform, to learn whatever you want to find. If I wanted to play the piano, for example, I bought a little keyboard when I was younger, and I would learn songs. I would watch the YouTube video and then I'd run next door and like practice that. So that was my go-to thing, right? And like, I think in some ways it was sort of my first social media platform. I don't know if you'd consider it a social media platform,
Yeah,
but in some ways,
definitely. Yeah.
it is, right? Like you connect, there's communities on there.
Mm.
And I remember very early on, I must have made like a channel to upload like stick animations. Did you know about this?
Are you one of those ones?
No, because essentially I must have been like 11 or 12.
I don't know where this is going.
I know I would make these little, essentially they were like little flip books, but you could do it online.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I know what
So
you're talking about.
you make a
It's like a compilation, and then it like kind of
yeah, exactly. But
moves it.
there was some software that I used. I remember, I don't know how I ended up doing
Mm.
it, but you'd adjust the people at like very slightly, and then you
In like
capture a new
different
frame.
seconds, yeah.
Exactly, right. And then you make it into a little movie. And so me and my younger brother, we both did that. And then shortly after, like I started following people like gamers, like at the
Yeah.
time.
You
there
said
was
that
a
in the
mass-
last episode
yeah,
about
exactly.
your little gaming phase.
Massive gaming community on there. So then I was like, I want to be like that. For some reason, I just felt like I wanted to be a part of that community. Like I felt connected with it. I thought I could do that, but not only that, like I would actually enjoy doing that. I would like to be part of this community, like this little niche.
Yeah.
So then I bought the software and stuff to actually record my gameplay to do that.
What did you get at the time?
I think it was called a Hopage or something like that. It was essentially like a monitor recording device in HD. So essentially, you'd have to connect something to your gaming console, your TV, and it would record the.
It was like a screen mirror type.
It was like a screen recorder essentially, but back then, like it cost a decent amount to actually buy something like that. So then I did that. I was gaming and stuff, and similar to you, like I didn't see it as a career. And even when we say like that person's a YouTuber, it's such a it understates what they do as well, because like you could be doing 100 different things on YouTube.
Yeah.
You just happen to be on YouTube, right? You're doing whatever, but you just happen to be on YouTube. Doesn't make you a YouTuber.
No.
But I don't know. I think in people's minds, it allows it to like, it helps them to put people in a box and say, okay, they're on YouTube. They make content on YouTube. That's why they're a YouTuber, right? And then when did it come to a point where I started to see? Yeah, I think it was in med school that I started to realize, oh wow, okay, some people on YouTube are earning big bucks, right? Like these are usually big personalities. People like I would always associate YouTube with having a really like how would you describe it, like eccentric personality. You know what I mean? Like you had to be really good on camera. You couldn't really be boring, because those are the people that we used to watch Lily sing.
And that's the thing. Like I think because like you see those type of people, like you don't like. Well, I never saw. I just compared YouTube as any other channel on TV. That I feel like you have to have a certain criteria to fulfill that. Otherwise, why would people watch you, right?
Yeah.
So I saw them as like in the same industry as like the entertainment industry, which is like a whole nother game, right?
Yeah. Fully.
But yeah, like it was more that I think back in the days, only those with like the personalities really did make it far.
Yeah.
But then actually over time, when you delve into like the dark side of YouTube, you realize there's actually so much.
There's
like,
so much
you've
out
got
there.
educators, entertainers. You've got people with really like weird humor that no one understands.
Yeah.
You've got people like young people who are kind of showcasing their talents. And you've got people who go around to the general public and interview them. And there's just so many different styles, isn't there?
There's so much stuff. Yeah. And like it almost seemed like people were genuinely having fun.
Yeah.
And like the idea of people actually earning whilst doing something that they enjoy, whatever it is, as long as there's an audience out there to watch it, it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So what point did you? I know it must have been like towards the end of med school that you started to think, okay, maybe I'll do it. But you only started a couple of years ago now? It's been what?
Well, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Like but so I'm 28, so I feel like I'm very like late. I mean, there's no such thing as starting something late, especially when it comes to like social media and whatnot. But like I only started to consider it when I met people who did YouTube.
Yeah.
So all these years when I was at university, when I was like anywhere I was, I never came across someone that I knew that did YouTube.
Really?
Right?
Who did you meet first?
Who was it? It was, I can't actually. There was actually a guy at uni. He was like a producer on the side, but he had like his own like record labels.
Okay.
So he did like stuff on YouTube. It was just random people. Like I wouldn't say they're my friends, but they're just people that I just knew of at uni that just did it.
Sort of in your circle or acquaintances.
Yeah,
right?
but also like in med school, there were a lot of educators on YouTube that obviously
Really?
helped me get through med school. So
Yeah.
there was like channels like, I mean, any medical student will know this, like Osmosis.
Khan Academy, all
Yeah,
that stuff.
Khan
Yeah.
Academy. And there's like the other guy, like Harmanda Hassan something,
Yeah.
so where he would draw stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot. So like, then I was like, hold on a second, like these are people in my field,
Mm.
and they're putting this content on YouTube.
Yeah. So
and
did you?
yeah.
Oh, so did you start to think I could do an educational
Yeah.
thing? Because
that
you're
was
quite
my
into
only way.
education as well, right? So like,
Yeah, because I think like, you know, you try and find points that you resonate with, right? So at the time, I was in med school, I was in medic, I completely lost touch with the whole entertainment side of stuff.
yeah.
So for me, it was like, oh, like they are literally just like me. They are making lecture notes just like I would make them.
Yeah.
So I could, if I had the right stuff,
Really.
could do YouTube. So yeah, that's what sparked my interest.
Yeah. But then when you actually made it, obviously the videos you actually put up are a lot different to that.
Yeah, they really are.
So how did you get to that point? At what point were you like, okay, this is what I want to make videos about?
Yeah, so the whole journey actually started during lockdown. So during lockdown, everyone's at home, they're all bored, and they're like, you know what, life is short, people are dying as they're breathing, let me just do something. So I feel like at lockdown, everyone like had a new hobby, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's from making like dalgona coffees, or whether it was like
Oh yeah, I remember that.
doing those like quizzes on Zoom,
Yeah.
or some people took up a new hobby, let's face it. It's not a lockdown if you don't have a new hobby. So for me, I think I just went onto like med Twitter, found a lot of medical educators and medical influencers on YouTube, and I was like, oh man, like they're just, you know, recording stuff on their phone. Then at that point, like coincidentally, Ali Abdal then started up his part-time YouTube Academy. So that was the first time he did his YouTube Academy, and I was following Ali like probably like a few months before.
Yeah.
And
Do you want to tell the people who Ali is? I'm sure everyone knows who he is.
in case you don't know
Shout
who
out to
Ali Abdal is, he is an ex-doctor, but now he is a jack of all trades, I guess.
He does everything. What
does
doesn't
everything.
he do? Yeah.
I think he kind of blew up on YouTube when it came to him doing his like productivity content, helping people to study better, all of those things. So yeah, and then I was like, you know what? Like, do I do this? Do I not? Then I asked you, I was like, oh my God, there's this YouTube Academy. Like, do I do it? And then I think you all just said, like, you know, if you don't start it with the cohort, you probably will never start it, right? So just see how it goes, see how you like it. Fast forward about a year and a half later, it was probably one of the best courses I've ever done. I'm not even affiliated with it, so I'm actually being honest here.
Affiliate link in the description.
Like, I made a lot of big purchases during lockdown because when you're at home doing nothing, all you do is just spend money on stuff that you don't need. But that was probably one of the best investments I made, because it just opened up this whole entire world of creators, and not just YouTube, but just creating online, and like the whole Austin Kleon share your work notion, you know? No,
It's a really cool time. Like,
it was
as soon as you make
amazing.
all these people who are making stuff and
Yeah, like, and it's perfect because in lockdown you can't see people, right? So you start to feel lonely. So then when you're a part of this virtual community, you're like, that's the only community you have at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then you start, and you know, at that academy, at that cohort, there was people from so many different places. Like, you know, I remember there was this one guy in Australia who would like log on because the classes were live, so it's not something that you
on the
download.
other side of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, so for him, he will join those classes around like, for him, like 2-3 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? And then he will join the cohort classes and stuff. And that's when, like, you know, long story short, they went through the gear that you would want to use, how to start, what to start, why you would start.
Yeah.
And
I remember we had a conversation as well before you were thinking of buying it, and like you wanted to take the leap, right? And I remember us having the conversation about, even if you were to pay just for it to give you the kickstart into making the video, or just putting yourself out there for the first time, you like just put a few videos out there. In a lot of ways, it would be worth it, because to make that leap is sometimes the hardest thing, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of justified the price in that way, and we both kind of mutually understood that value of money, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like the purchasing power to help you to sort of throw yourself into something and give you that sort of accountability that, okay, I've paid for something now, I have to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the big thing though. Like, I think people like need to stop thinking that these things are expensive ventures. Like, the whole reason why people want to create online is because it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, you don't actually need the gear. Like, that's one big lesson that I learned from the cohort, is you don't need to have expensive gear. It's not what you use, it's how you use. You know, actually, like Ali Abdaal himself, he started making videos like on his phone and whatnot. Like it never started off from using SLR cameras and all of that stuff. So it doesn't have to be expensive, but the reason why it can be expensive is sometimes if you are someone who doesn't know other creators online, you don't really get that motivation. So if joining a cohort like the Part-Time YouTube Academy means that you spend X amount of money, but it gives you access to all these other people that who, you know, over time become your friends. You know, a year later, we all met up in London. You know, even the international people that came down to London to meet up, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are perks of it. And I think the big perk is like you then become part of a community, which as a creator can be really hard to set up, you know. And a lot of people say like the creator journey can feel really, really lonely. But the big motivation is like being around people who do it. And I think that for me started very late.
I think that's one of the nicest things about starting, like just having people who are on the same sort of wavelength, because I realize this. A lot of people just don't understand what somebody who creates goes through, like the process and stuff. And I don't mean in the sense of, you know, like coming up with artistic ideas, but like just trying to find time to block off just for the creative process. Like say for example, staying at home. When people think that I'm at home and I'm saying that okay, I'm working on something, if they don't if they know that I'm not working at the hospital, they just assume my time is off. That time is available for them to kind of slot a motive in with me and just like do something with me, when really some people find it very difficult to understand that okay, I need this time to kind of just sit at home, sometimes even just do nothing or work towards getting something done, you know what I mean? So yeah, you're quite lucky that you had that that cohort to be with. I didn't have that many people, especially starting off.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, like you obviously had that phase of being like a gamer YouTuber, which no one will ever see, unfortunately. But if you guys encourage him, he might show
it's off limits.
at least one. You've got to show one.
I can show you some clips, no problem. But I'm not opening that kind of worms, like especially the comment section of like 13-year-old boys. You don't want to read it.
Oh man! So I mean, it's a big jump. So you started off being like this kid in your bedroom, like showing people that you're playing like Call of Duty or whatever it is that you're playing.
You make it sound like it wasn't cool.
No, it definitely. I have no doubt that
it was cool.
It was cool. Okay.
I'm the coolest.
I feel like if KSI ever watches this, that's what I'm saying. It's cool.
KSI, oh yeah.
It's only because of
KSI, shout me.
So, but then you went from that to then starting a brand new channel.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with games. It was a complete different world. And your first video that you made, was it before lockdown or during lockdown?
It was during lockdown.
Yeah. And that was, you were...
I had COVID in that first video. Did you know that?
Great. You should have done that. But so your first video, I remember, it was about a product. It was a digital product.
Yeah.
Can't remember what though.
It's a tablet. It's like the drawing
Wacom.
tablet. Yeah. Wacom tablet. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So you started off...
It was a logical next step from gaming.
Okay, so like...
I'm joking, it wasn't.
Just share your thought process. Like, what made you think, okay, I'm going to start this new YouTube channel. I will be the brand of this channel. I'm going to make this as my first video. So what was going through your head? I mean, it was great.
It's a big question.
It was great, but what made you start with that?
Are you ready to hear the whole spiel? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, so I went through the gaming phase. That was purely for fun, right? That was just... I genuinely liked doing it. There was no idea of making money. I mean, like, the idea kind of... I had it in my head, but I was like 14 years old, you know. I was just doing it for fun, to share things online, to sort of see what people wanted to say back to me, right? And like just enjoy those comments coming through, those likes coming through. Anyway, that was a very small scale thing. And then I go to med school, and then, you know, I tried to, essentially I set up that company to help people get into medicine.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the first time I actually spoke to Ali Abdaal, because he at the time had just set up his. So I think we had a little brief interaction like online and stuff, and so we followed each other. And I set that up, and then essentially I moved on from that idea to something else, which I started up at university. And basically I was quickly realizing that this kind of whole entrepreneurship thing was something that I really wanted as part of my life, you know what I mean?
Of the year.
Buzzword of the year, right? And I was like, wow, like you can literally just create whatever you want online, start earning money online. And like that idea kind of really took hold of me during med school. And so I was at this point where I was at this crossroads where either I focus completely on medicine or I kind of open up some time for this new entrepreneurship thing. And then similarly, I was at this time where I was sort of following people like Ali Abdaal, right? As in, and okay, what he's done is amazing, but also I think a lot of people don't talk about this is the sort of representation he gave to a lot of people who, like, you know, Muslims, Asians,
Yeah.
people who looked like him, you know, like he felt relatable. He felt like that, oh, that neighbor next door, or that guy from your,
Yeah.
you know, university, that like you could go out there and do the same.
But
And
also representing medics,
yeah,
which I
fully.
know sometimes he might not want to kind of affiliate with. Who
Yeah.
knows? But I think that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
because when, like, for anyone who doesn't go to med school, one of the main things that you get told, probably in the first lecture at induction at med school, is how the GMC perceive your presence online and social media, and how it correlates with professionalism. You know,
Yeah.
there's a huge question mark on how far can you go in representing yourself outside of the workplace without being unprofessional.
They basically scare you
They do.
into
Yeah.
into essentially conforming to this kind of really innocent person with no, who doesn't share their views
Yeah.
outside. Okay, and to a certain extent, obviously, I understand it, but everyone is always on the edge, right? And so, yeah, absolutely.
And
So
he definitely broke that barrier. Like,
broke that
showed
barrier,
you
and
can be
he-
both.
exactly, and he
Yeah.
just sort of, he wasn't just the medic; he was the medic. He was like everything else as well.
Yeah.
Like the whole productivity thing, you know, like he really introduced, it sort of blazed this new sort of path, right? This sort
Yeah.
of productivity sort of path. I don't know. Obviously, there were people before him, but like, you know,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, he was the first introduction,
Yeah.
and now he created this whole new pathway with. Okay, and so I was sort of following him, and I was sort of, you know, reading books about entrepreneurship and stuff like that, and then I quickly realized, right, that statistically, if I come up with an idea of new business, right, chances are it will probably fail. Okay, or it may not be this one that succeeds, but like, or maybe a subsequent one, right? And I realized that essentially when you start up a business, people give people, you have to like raise awareness and attention towards business. The attention doesn't go to you.
No.
Okay, not that I have an issue with that, but the problem is that, say for example, that business fails, you have to start all over
All
again,
over again, yeah.
right? Because people only cared about the business; they don't care about who created it, really. So I was like, okay, that sounds kind of inefficient, right? So I was like, what can I do that is more likely to sort of carry over into whatever I want to do in the future? And so I got introduced to this sort of concept of a personal brand, right? And then loads of people were talking about this, and so I started looking into this, and I was like, okay, what does it mean to be a personal brand? Essentially, if I slightly put the attention on myself, not for the sake of, you know, to make myself seem like some really cool guy, right? But say for example, I teach medicine, for example, but I'm the face essentially, right? People might become interested in me, so that later on down the line, if I decide to pivot into something else, like talking about making it on a podcast, for example, that people might be interested, right, and follow me on, just similar to how Ali did it. So then the first thing I did, I remember, I was in Japan, right, on my medical elective, and I was listening. I went solo, right? That was my first solo trip, and I was listening to this Gary Vee audiobook. It's the first time I listened to anything by Gary Vee, and you know his style. You've heard Gary Vee, right? He's just like, come on, man, just do it, just like flipping, just start right now. And that's kind of what I needed to hear, because sometimes when you listen to these books, right, the thought that you've been kind of like pushing to the back of your head comes to the forefront. And that this thought that, okay, you just, Faisal, just do it. Just like stop being so scared and make a personal brand. So that night, I remember making a new Instagram account. That's all I did. And you know, when you change it to like, you can write it in like
personal blog and stuff.
It's a kind of like a business profile or something like that. I did that, and I maybe made one post, and I was like, this is I'm gonna make a personal blog. And I was so nervous at the idea of it, I just went straight to sleep. Like, I didn't want to see any kind of reaction from anyone. And so essentially I started that. I started posting a bit there. Then from there, I started writing online. I made my newsletter, right? And you know, that's another talk for a whole nother episode. But essentially, that's how it started. After that, I was like, okay, let me start writing online. And from that point, I said, okay, once I felt comfortable writing, I started getting in my head that, you know what, like there's levels to how you can connect with people, and writing is sort of, it's not at the top. It's almost audio goes afterwards, I think, in my personal opinion. And then video is like right at the top, because you can script stuff, you can write, have good writing behind it, but you also got sound, it's audio visual, you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of, at the end of the day, the best way to kind of consume information is to have all those senses like targeted, right? Anyway, so I'm like, at this point, I need to start a YouTube channel. So this was leading up to COVID. I had already planned to make a video, but I was like, okay, I was still really nervous about how I was going to start.
Yeah.
So it took me a couple months to get the camera, learn how to use it for the first time, because I never had a proper digital camera. And I was like, because I had previously had the channel, right? So I felt like I had some sort of level of quality to sort of a benchmark to kind of live up to already. So it took me a bit of time, but I kind of wanted to, at the time I was sort of trying to follow the Ali Abdaal pathway, okay? Like do something which is the best combination of what I'm good at plus what people want to see and what I enjoy. Obviously, I don't make content like my original ones now, but that was the process, right? That's sort of like the journey I took to even uploading the first video. Yeah, that's my life story.
What a journey.
What a journey. It's been a great journey.
And now you're on, is it 2K plus subscribers?
Just over
2 plus subscribers.
2 plus. I got maybe 3, 4. My mom,
No, that's
dad,
great.
auntie, yeah.
How many videos have you done?
I don't know, but I think maybe 20, 30.
20, 30. And on average, would that be uploading do you start off with uploading every week or every month, or what was your schedule? Because that's another thing about YouTube is scheduling, and actually not just YouTube, even like your creators on Instagram and stuff, like scheduling when you upload stuff, and do you record it in batch or do you do it as you go along? So what was like your initial kind of scheduling program?
My initial thing was
amongst working as a doctor.
As in, I was still very early on in trying to figure out, so I kind of jumped into, I was like, okay, I'm gonna create, right? But then even within that, there's so much to think about, and I gave it some thought, but I was like, okay, I know I need to post regularly.
Yeah.
How regularly, I don't know. Maybe it might be once a week, but I quickly found out that is very difficult to keep up. Even like if you're doing part-time medicine, like the stamina you have to be able to script a video, even if you do that, or record it, be learning at the same time how to make the video look better, how to make the audio sound better, get a nice setup at home, find the time to record, edit it, put in B-roll, put in all that stuff, and then upload it as well. Come up with a strategy or new content ideas. It's like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And like doing it alongside obviously being a doctor, I quickly found that I was essentially burning out trying to do it at once a week. And so at most I was trying maybe 10 days, but I could never really keep it up. It's not quite as bad as your once a year uploads.
So this is the thing. I feel like we've mentioned it probably multiple times now that like, it's almost like a full-time job on top of being a doctor, or this is hard on top of being a doctor. But even if like you don't have a full-time job, like I completely have so much respect for people who do it just full-time, and that is their thing full-time. Because actually there are times, like the only times I actually miss going to work is when I have like a really like intense period of recording or filming or drawing or something, and I'm like, okay, I just really need to get away from this. I'm lucky enough that I have something else that I do that is completely different to it. A lot of people don't actually have that, and this is their life and soul, and they stick to it, they are consistent, and years later they're still strong. So I think regardless of if this is a side thing or if this is your main thing, it's just hard, full stop. And I think a lot of the things that you said about B-roll and doing this and doing that, for anyone who hasn't started YouTube, all of that is going to sound like faff. And I think for anyone who hasn't started but are thinking about, starting something, that's the one thing that puts them off, is all this faff in the gear and setting up. And, when you think you press record, but you've talked for hours and you check you haven't pressed record, and then, downloading things on your laptop and then editing, all of that is just faff.
But I kind of find that quite exciting, when I first started, obviously we both started kind of during lockdown, right?
Yeah.
The idea that we were just kind of exploring it for the first time put my my mind was going towards something, as opposed to just kind of going to work, come back, feel upset that you can't go out, and I would go home and I was like, okay, I've got something to work on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways I really enjoyed it. And another thing I wanted to mention, right, which was one of the big reasons I was like, I wanted to have a creative sort of interest or creative side hobby, was that somebody said this, I don't know who said this quote, right, but it really stuck with me. They were like, with work we try and find shortcuts, but with art we go deeper, right? And that's kind of what I would think about. I was like, I don't want to spend my life doing just things that I'm trying to find shortcuts at, or try and skimp out and not do the hard work. I want to sort of dedicate my life or part of my life to something which I can get better at, which I can improve 1% every day. And I was like, I wasn't quite sure at the time if medicine was that. Like I didn't go home and just start reading up about medicine in my spare time. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong, and I've had that's a whole separate.
You just wouldn't go home and research about
exactly. And I was like, where is my attention going when I go home? And I was like, right now, I'm spending a lot of my free time not getting paid, trying to learn more about how to make a better video, communicate better story, to enjoy the process of creating, and you know what I mean. So like from that point of view, like that's another big thing which I like highly recommend that people, especially if you got a 9 to 5. If you're thinking about starting a creative hobby, whether that's singing, writing, just vlogging, even if it's just for yourself and not putting it out there, just the process of having that like sort of that outlet really makes your kind of life feel a bit more whole. I don't know. It may be different for other people. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I
do
completely
you
agree.
enjoy the process as well?
I would say like
No.
from nope, absolutely hate. I mean, okay, so the way my brain works, I it's not like ADHD kind of traits, but it's more so like when I do something, I get super excited about it, and then when I'm really excited, I will go ham. Like I'll go from 0 to 100, and I have no regrets doing that because I have that adrenaline. It's that newbie rush of like, oh my god, this whole new world, and you discover
shiny object syndrome.
Literally shiny object syndrome. And then. But what happens is I then not burn out really quickly. I don't get bored, but it's like
the novelty wears off.
Yeah, the novelty wears off. And the thing is, it's like it's really unrealistic to like when you hear so many creators saying, "Oh, I upload videos once a week and I do this once a week." Like all of that is great, but it doesn't mean that it's doable for everyone. And I think sometimes. Like you have to really ask yourself, like, why are you doing it in the first place? Which will definitely give our answers. But I think when I started, I was part of the YouTube Academy. So I was still virtually surrounded by, 20, 30 people who were on the same path as me. A lot of them also started at the same time as me. And so in between videos and stuff, we will talk, we'll give advice, we'll give like a lot of guidance on each other's work. So then you have other people around you who give you that rush and give you that adrenaline. But then after that, like life takes over and things start to become more realistic. And you just come to the real world where, what is your life outside of the screen? What is your life outside of the camera? A lot of people have so many other obligations and so many other priorities. And, to a lot of people, it could be excuses like, nope, this is an excuse, manage your time well. But it's hard. Like, it is hard. And I think...
You hit this dip, right?
Yeah, so I mean, after my 4 videos, I still continue to film. I still continue.
4?
Yeah, like I've actually got probably like on average like 4 videos that I've filmed, but just like half edited. One is like 60% edited, one is like 20% edited, all of that stuff. And I realized like for me, I only learned editing really recently. And then I got help from an editor that I got from Upwork. Massive help. And then over time, it was just like I was so frustrated in not learning fast enough. Like, so when I made my first videos, I made sure that the quality was up there. A lot of people thought I was doing this for years when they saw my video. The problem with that is you're then setting yourself really unrealistic expectations. And it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to have high quality videos from the get-go. And then someone from the academy then told me something really wise and was saying, look, you just like people aren't watching your channel for like the special effects and the quality and the 4K camera. They're watching it because of you. They're watching it because of what you have to say. They're invested in how you think. And most importantly, like they're sticking with you because you give them some sort of value, whether it's educational, whether it's putting a smile on their face, whether it's making them think a different way, or just being like that voice in the background whilst they're doing their laundry, and that simplifies things so much. But a year and a half later, still just got 4 videos. I will resume to it, but I think I want to resume to it at a time where I feel like I can manage it with my real life, and I think a lot of people crack that really quickly. And some people take time. Otherwise, you're just gonna end up hating it. So what's the point?
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like like when I first started, I was like, no, I have to, like, I really wanted to, you know, when you build these sort of projections in your head, like, oh, if I post every day for a couple months, I'm gonna see the spike that everyone's promised me, and like then it doesn't come, and you're like, ah, damn it. Then you feel that dip, right? Not only like mentally, but you feel a bit burnt out. The people who initially supported you to get started, they sort of say, okay, like, you know, what's new, continue. So, you know what I mean? That initial spike of support also stops.
Yeah.
So all those things sort of come together, and like you start to realize, oh damn, like this is real. Like I can't just keep riding that high that I first had. You know, when you start. So I've seen a lot of people who have created Instagram pages or YouTube channels who don't go very far beyond the first or second video, and I feel like, I mean, it's very easy to do, but like if you don't really sit down and think, this is why I'm doing it, and like you have to be willing to sort of do the work even when no one's around, when no one's clapping for you. And I think a lot of people, even myself at times, had an issue with that. Like I kind of wanted people to look at what I was making. If no one's watching what I was making, you just, at some point you think, is it even worth it, right? The question runs in your head. But then I sort of had to sit down and think to myself, even if nobody watches the videos I make, reads the news that I write, is there benefit in it just for me?
100%.
Like in terms of like going through the motions,
100%.
Learning how to become a better storyteller, because there are skills that you learn, and a lot of the times if you make it the content for yourself first and foremost, you'll never really be upset when other people don't give you the support that you thought you'd get, right? And so like I've literally experienced the same dip 100 times over, and I'm sort of still, even now 2 years on, navigating that sort of, you know, how to merge it with your lifestyle, not really care too much about, you know,
the numbers and the algorithm.
Yeah, the numbers and the algorithm.
Oh, the algorithm.
The algorithm, the numbers. Like I remember, do you remember one time, I'm not sure if I sent this to you, but like so many times, like even on the YouTube dashboard, you see, okay, this one performed really well, this one didn't.
Yeah, and then they rank the videos 1 out of 10 and all of that stuff.
Yeah, but then one time I remember there's one specific, there's a live monitor of who's watching your videos, and I really like that one because there's no numbers on it.
Yeah,
you could just see it going up, down, just randomly at random times. And for me, I had to remind myself, I screenshot it actually, just to remind myself down the line that there's no obvious trend there, but I shouldn't be upset about that.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that there are bars there, meaning that people are watching videos, and that means that I did the work. I made something, right? That's the most important thing. Not that people, how many people were watching, because that can vary, and I've got no control over it. But the important thing was that I did the work. I put something out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key thing. Like, if it's YouTube or if it's just any sort of creation, the key thing is you just got to be patient. Like, you've got to be really, really patient. And I think and the thing is, like, nowadays you've got loads of YouTube creators and loads of like companies and like marketing people who will then advertise like, oh, you know, join our course to kickstart YouTube and whatever. And they'll give you examples of case stories like, oh, this person started YouTube and within 2 months got 500,000 subscribers and blah, blah, blah.
I'm still waiting for my 500.
But like,
give it to me.
But this is so wrong to advertise something that way, because then you're then grabbing people who want to start YouTube purely for the numbers and to get monetized and stuff. And I think if you're wealthy enough where you can afford to just be the front face of your channel and hire 15 man to do your editing, to film for you and all of that stuff, cool, good for you. But I think the struggles that we're talking about are the struggles that majority of YouTubers face, because they are doing everything themselves, you know, everything. And actually, it's only very later on down the line do they then start getting help. But even the help that they get is 10% of what they do.
Yeah.
You know, they still do majority of the stuff on their own.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, you just got to be really, really patient. You've got to ignore the numbers and you've got to ignore that stuff. And I think that's also another reason why I slowed down, because actually when people message me saying, hey, Shugs, when's your next video? It was like the explanation that would give me saying, oh my gosh, Shugs, you've got, 1,000 views on like your video. You need to keep that going.
Yeah, that's me.
And I was like,
Every week.
and I was like, I
I'm
don't
like,
need
when's
to
the
keep
next one?
anything going because actually, like, we're talking about numbers, but they're people. They're people behind the screen.
Are they?
Who knows? I mean, I hope they are not robots. Like, but these views, like, these are people taking time out to watch your video.
No, that's honestly, big point.
And if my audience is authentic, they will come back, even if I do a video like in a year's time, depending if what I talk about and what I do is still something that they're interested in. I think once you start to get quite big, it is important to see the audience and see what they want. And I think only then the numbers are really, really important when you've got an audience and you really need to see what the audience wants, right? Because there's no point in...
You can start doing experiments.
Yeah. But when you're starting as a beginner, it is predominantly about you and the process and what you're learning.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about the audience then because you're actually dealing with a non-existent audience, right?
Yeah. But what you said was really cool. What you said was that like you're dealing with real people, right? Like people say this analogy as well that like imagine you had however many followers you have or viewers right in front of you. You'd be like, wow, that's a lot of people, right? And I have to remind myself this like here and there that it's actually a massive privilege for someone to take time out of their day to give you attention, right? Because like that's one of the biggest commodities we have at the moment, right? It's just our attention. We only have a finite amount per day. Who are we gonna give our attention to, right?
Yeah.
And even when we're literally like when we've got no followers, no one really supporting us, we don't have the numbers, we don't have the credentials yet, that people choose to spend their time and support us, to comment, to leave a comment even, you know what I mean? Like now I try to reply to as many people as possible because I'm like, not only did you like it, you spent your time writing a comment, you know what I mean, just for me to see or to give feedback. So like I think not enough people talk, like you said, not enough people talk about why you should create just for the sake of creating.
Yeah.
As opposed to creating to get some sort of material benefit, like, get views, get an income.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people, even like say for example, a lot of these videos from big brands now is that they go to this like these remote places and find, or like these countries where these painters or artists do things on a very low, like they have a really cool creative process, but they don't really put themselves out there. They just enjoy doing what they were doing. Like there's this brand Aimé Leon Dior or something. I butchered that name. Have you heard of AOD?
I mean,
I think it's French.
I think I've seen, I can recognize
like
the logo.
it's French or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll cut that bit out if I said it wrong. Anyway, but basically one of their recent videos was like there was this kind of like guy who was doing pottery, I think, or something like that. And he's just got a typical kind of like little garage. It was in Greece or something like that, right? And he's just full of like, like almost like a painter, just like coming dirty
like
clothes, ripped, just like smoking in this really grungy kind of place. And like he was dropping these words of wisdom for this like brand promo, right? And he was just saying like it's just about the process essentially, you know what I mean? And not enough people see that side. Like it's not very glamorous, is it?
Yeah.
Like, but I think it's super underrated. And not enough people speak about it. So hopefully on this podcast, we'll try and talk more about sort of the benefits of creating, even if no one's watching. And like, what you can benefit from it.
Yeah. And like, I think it goes back to what you said earlier that, people don't really actually do YouTube to become a YouTuber. They, it's just a stepping stone to other things that they want to do. And I think like, when you are starting YouTube, like it is really like good to kind of see like where do you want this to go, just to ask yourself like, why do I want to start YouTube and why not do anything else? Like what is it that YouTube is going to give me besides just the views and the comments? And I think this is why like actually sometimes I've seen examples where the numbers don't actually even matter. Like for example, if you have a really like niche topic that you are centered around, then all it takes is actually just one person to come across your channel and then see if you are someone that they are very, very interested in for, collaborating of some sort, whether it's sponsorship or whether it's, taking you abroad because they want you to be part of like this, conference or event or whatever. And so all that actually takes is just one person. So I think people always think that, oh no, like, you know, no one's going to care about a YouTube channel that's only got like 500 subscribers or whatever. But it's like, that is very, very untrue, because I can give you examples of YouTubers or people who do YouTube who literally only had 100 subscribers, but they just got discovered by someone who gave them more opportunities they would ever get if it was just in person, you know? So that's another reason why you shouldn't focus on the numbers, because if you really care about what you are doing and what value you want to give to people, it literally just takes one message to lighten up your day. You know?
Sometimes even just like putting yourself out there, people are looking at you and saying, okay, out of like, you know, you might just reach, say for example, 20, 30 people. But then they have in their head that this person, not only what you're about, but you're one of the few people who are actually doing it.
Yeah.
And like, already by creating something, you're already in like the 1%, you know what I mean? Like of people who have an idea, but you're actually doing it. You've already proved that you've gotten past that initial hurdle of trying to get the courage to do something, you know what I mean? So absolutely, there's so many people who have very small followings, but very niche followings, and somebody might reach out to them, you know, like, and I think the best way to describe it is that like you're almost increasing the opportunity or your surface area for luck to come to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like just putting yourself out there is very difficult to sort of explain every benefit that comes with just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
But opportunities come left, right and center, you know what I mean, in the ways you least expect. But
you won't know until you actually make a video and put it out there. And this is probably a very popular opinion, but it is really, really obvious. And this is not just on YouTube, but I'm seeing it a lot on like Instagram Reels at the moment, because obviously short form content is like, boom, like the next big thing.
Yeah.
But it is so obvious when you come across a channel that is full of videos where they are making it just for the sake of putting something out there and to maintain the numbers. Because like, and you'll really like realize this really quickly, but when you come across those videos, these are the kind of videos where it's formatted in a very trendy way, because for example, if it's an Instagram reel, they'll use like a track that they know has been used so many times. But it's like when you're watching it, you don't actually know what you're watching, so you don't actually know what is giving you, or like there's no like storyline, there's no message. It's marginally entertaining, but it's just another thing that is filling up your screen. You know, and that I've come across YouTube videos as well where, for example, like I think a very easy, like with YouTube channels, it's a bit like a playlist, right? So in your playlist, whether you're a DJ, whether it's your Spotify playlist, you have tracks that just make the playlist what it is. So for example, like I want to do a playlist on like summer's day, like for a really good time in summer picnic, these are the playlists that I'll play. You have tracks that just really, really set the vibe, but then you've also got filler tracks. So these are tracks that aren't really like, you know, your singles or like stuff that you'll notice, but they just fill the time and they fill the playlist to be what it is. So you'll come across YouTube channels where a lot of the videos are just filler videos. But even then, like if it's a filler video, it should still coincide with what you want to give in terms of value and why you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just spam. It's like absolute spam. And that's why nowadays I actually haven't come across new YouTubers that I would actually stick to, because I'm like, oh my God, this is another get ready with me, or oh my God, this is another mukbang or whatever, you know. But I think when people put their own twist to it, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, you know. But if you're doing it because you can't think of another video to make, don't make one. Like, that's a very unpopular opinion. I think a lot of creators say, no, make a video. If it means that you have a video per week, make a video, which is great. But I think that decision is algorithm driven. Like, I would rather take my break and make a video.
That's just sort of like trying to play according to the rules of the system, right? Like if you want to win. And in some ways, I kind of get it. But like, you know, we've had this conversation about like making art versus making content, right? Like, ideally, we like, because we really respect the art form of you know, music or making a YouTube video or making something like really quite original, where we kind of tilt towards the artistic side, whereas I think what you're saying is essentially that we like to just see something as content for the sake of, you know, just putting something out there just for numbers, just for you know, for the algorithm. You kind of sometimes have to sacrifice the artistic element and make it sort of just very bland, you know, expected, relatable, but it doesn't have anything new about it.
Would you make those filler videos?
I would.
Or would you rather invest that time in scripting something?
What,
that's
me,
like
myself?
Yeah.
So I made this decision recently, which was that like I think they're almost like two separate minds you have. Okay, you got the artistic mind, you got the business mind, and
Perfectionism mind, or just like
just kind of like get results mind.
yeah.
And
It's that balance, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's that balance. But I like both those elements of doing something. So for a long time, my like for example, I know that I should be putting out more videos. My business side is saying, put out a video a week.
Yeah.
Get some results. Let's see if this works because we know what to do. We've consumed all the advice. Let's do it. But my artistic side is like, no, I'm not going to put out crap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
And so I kept ping ponging between the two sides, sort of swaying left and right. But then I realized, you know what I should just do is just split them up.
Yeah.
Have something, some sort of idea that I can work on, which is purely almost business. And I can put out content. I can put out filler, which is still very useful, but it's not pure artistic sort of expression, right? And the other side is just like, for example, my personal YouTube channel, I just focus on pure artistic expression. You know what I mean? Just enjoy the process, take your time, work on it, make it better.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of given me peace that, you know what, I don't have to find a sort of messy average between the two, but I can just sort of have all of one and all of the other.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And that's the thing, because like in my opinion, time is money, right? So
Preach.
time is money. Because like if I'm starting out, no one really knows me, and I'm starting out as like a side hustle, okay? So if I'm already stretched for time, why am I going to waste my time making a video for the sake of putting something out there every week? You know, and I just think like crap videos are fine if it's meaningful crap, you know, like not every day do you need a video where it's got like some moral to the story or like it's super, super entertaining. Like I get it. Sometimes you just have a normal video of you just talking to the camera. That's great. But I think when they start out, people already have imposter syndrome, right? They're just like, who's going to watch my videos? I'm not even interesting. And they only start to get faith in themselves when they get some sort of traction and some sort of feedback saying, hey, I really like the way you think, right? But then I think you only get the courage to make those filler videos when you do have like a little bit of an audience and you think, okay, these audience, like they're sticking with me because they like me for who I am. So maybe I can just do a video of me just talking to the camera and be like, hey guys, don't really have a theme of this video today, but I just wanted to talk about X, Y, Z, you know? So I think those kind of like low intensity videos, they do work, but maybe just further down the line. But I think it is all depends on the audience. I think the decisions that you make when doing a YouTube channel predominantly is decided by the audience and the kind of feedback that you get. Just like with anything, right?
What? So you're saying that like like a creator should be guided by what the audience says?
Oh no!
I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, I'm about to get cancelled.
100%
not. I think
instead of cater to your audience, is that what you're saying right now? Is that what you're saying on camera?
I think instead of seeing it as you versus the audience, like if they are invested in your channel, then they are thinking very similar to you, or you have something in common with them, right? So I think it is just, you guys are a team. Like the creator and the audience, I see them as like one team. And it's almost like saying, hey, I'm going to make these videos to somehow make your life better to a certain extent. And you guys, by investing in my channel, are also making my life better. But also, like, you always ask your audience, hey, what videos do you want me to do or whatever. Like, your audience is a big part of your content, isn't it? Otherwise, you're just talking to a brick wall. So I don't think you should do it for the sake of other people, but you should do it for the sake of being a team player and doing something that you enjoy and your audience enjoys. I think you're the same team. You're not two different teams. It's fine. Just do what you want. End of episode.
End of episode.
Do what you want.
You know why? Because literally I was about to come with the biggest counter argument. Well, maybe we should save it for another day.
No. Just do what is sustainable. I think at the end of the day, like, your video will be nothing without you and your energy. And if you are not in your top form, or just in a form that you are comfortable and just being your best self, then there's no point. And sometimes if you're getting pressured by people or numbers, whatever it is that you're getting pressured from, the best videos happen when you're not under pressure and it's natural and it's organic. So that's all that matters.
100%.
Did I save myself?
I think you brought that back quite nicely.
Thank God. We can end it.
We'll cancel you next episode. But yeah, so what did we cover today? So we've covered, obviously that was our story of how we started YouTube.
Yeah. Why we started. What's appealing.
How it's going. I mean, we'll obviously talk about in later episodes where we hope to take things, and whether or not if we do have any big updates on our journey, we're going to keep all you guys informed. But we have loads of other topics to talk about in the Suga social enterprise, Scolione. There's lots to talk about there.
And Faisal's, am I allowed to say it?
Yeah, go.
Faisal's Hippocampus,
Hippocampus,
which is a brand new medical education
by
platform.
the time this episode comes out,
yes,
it's
you're going to see some videos.
There's probably going to be loads of videos already up. But
Super
we're about
exciting.
day 2 into actually uploading videos. But at this point, I haven't really shared it with anyone. But we'll talk about that as well. That's another big thing. That's sort of more the business side of creating.
And I think YouTube is such a big topic that you can't really cover it in one episode. So I feel like
we've not done it justice.
So I feel like today we've covered the good side of YouTube, like why you would start and what's so great about it. But the whole point of this podcast is we give you the BTS of everything.
The bad side, the dark side.
Yeah, so there's always a dark side with anything. So if you're listening to this episode and you are considering YouTube, you probably have got zero value from why you should start YouTube, because we didn't say why you should start YouTube. We just told you, because what we can give is our experience. We can't tell you why you should do something or what you should do, but we can just tell you our honest opinion of what it felt like going through the process, and we are still going through the process. So if you are merely interested in knowing more about YouTube and knowing the realistic experiences, then tune in and stay with us and we
drop
will
us a
give you
comment
more.
or we'll have some sort of way that you guys can obviously communicate with us. We'd love to sort of get back to any questions. If you have any topics that you'd like us to discuss, put them in the comments, especially on YouTube, and we'll be reading every single one. We'll get back to you, hopefully. Maybe we should do some sort of create a support or create a Q&A.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be
Just
pretty
let us
cool.
know, if your experiences, or if you started YouTube and if it was a success or if it failed, and just tell us about your experience. And if you're okay with us sharing it to the rest of the world, then that's great, because I feel like the more experiences people hear, the less lonely they feel, and the more kind of people realize that these are very, very common issues, and there's always a way around things. The whole point is we try and make it.
We are making it. You are making it.
Yes.
Everybody's making it.
Even if it's meaningful crap.
Meaningful crap.
There you go.
That summarizes our podcast. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
And we will see you next time. But in the meantime, carry on making it, guys.
That's so cheesy.
Cut that out ASAP.
We're cutting that out. Peace.